Hi, kids. Just Be the Clown and comedy consultant, justbetheclown.com here. Justin B. Wright, the creator of Dance Oh Dance, the live, all ages, free, hour-long public access program of dance that was seen in Thurston County, Washington, 1997 to 2021. And then those last three seasons on Zoom and on YouTube. And I have been doing these videos sitting in this room, in this chair, expressing my gratitudes for certain things and then reconnecting with that creative spark. So I am grateful for um, the LGBTQ plus community of my dear friends and family members. I am so proud to be the parent of a trans daughter. And this is part of therapy homework that I am doing. My therapist didn't say make a video. I said I want to make one, and my therapist said, well, when are you going to do that? And let's put it on the calendar for you. And so here we are. It's May 31st. So it's the eve of Pride Month of June of 2023. And I also, unfortunately, have another agenda, which is a call out of a former friend of mine who participated in a group that I believe is transphobic and not good. And so they have unfriended me. And so this is a call out to that friend. And uh, hopefully, if there are people that know her that could connect with her better and uh, have more compassion and do more education, or maybe we can go in and co-opt those groups and destroy them from the inside. I don't know what the solution is, but it's like a conspiracy laden group. So uh, let me explain a little bit about how this went down. So I have to some might seem like a lot of Facebook friends, like I don't know, 1,200 or something like that. It's more friends than I can actually know and have in a tight social circle, right? I was social media slutty, I guess. I used it to promote my business as Just Be the Clown and for Dance O Dance. So people that think they know anything about me from clowning or dance think one thing and they want to be friends, okay? And I was married to an extrovert, and I have a lot of mutual friends from that relationship. So, and I lived in Olympia for like 30 years, so there's a whole community of Olympia people. This was one of those people, and it turns out I hadn't actually had a conversation with them since 2014. So I just assumed certain things were going the way they had. I thought a progressive, crunchy granola person. Um, so in 2010, I got my laughter yoga leader certification. And this is a person that I participated in laughter yoga workshops with. We collaborated on that. And they were also a massage practitioner, as was my ex-wife. And then the most recent pictures I saw of her life were being of a new mom, like, okay, this is normal and reasonable thing to expect of this person here moving on. But then they posted this thing, and I looked at this group and saw that these are pictures of the celebrities and the power elite, leaders, whatever, and the members of the group then judge whether or not they are the real sex that they claim to be. Basically, their conspiracy theory is that um, transgender people are in charge of everything. All of Hollywood and all of the governments and stuff. And that's because they're Satanists. So there's a few leaps of logic here, and it's really been bugging me. And I asked them why they did that, and they told me that although it sounded crazy, they've done hundreds of hours of research, and said it does sound crazy. Yes. So I started composing an open letter to this person, and I have that document that I'll want to refer to, but I, I've been putting this off, and I feel like I want to be honest, speak my truth, show my emotions, the frustration of this. The person says that it's been confusing. I understand. In recent years, um, transgender people are more out, and so it seems like the numbers are growing. It's become more acceptable within a certain group. With another group, very much not so acceptable, and so a lot of repression and harsh reactions, as we're seeing in the news around the country with hundreds of anti-LGBTQ plus laws being proposed and passed in certain places, and it's not safe to travel certain places anymore. So yeah, let me get to my open letter here and see if this rings a bell here, right? Your recent online activity came to my attention, and I felt the need to expose it as uncool and potentially unsafe. Right? Okay, so I took it upon myself to share some screen caps of our conversation when I realized I probably would not be able to convince you to believe and behave differently. My only motivation now is to reach some of the 55 mutual friends who may have a closer relationship and whose counsel you may value. So, to organize my thoughts, I'm dividing this letter into who, what, where, when, how, and why. Who? I met you sometime after Laughter Yoga Leader Certification in 2010. Yes, we've covered that. Participated in laughter yoga workshops I led. You are currently a yoga teacher and a massage practitioner. You're also a new mother. Yes, our last conversation was in 2014. A lot I don't know about your life. We may have attended the Olympia Unitarian Universalist congregation together. For a long time, I went to church. Church, they didn't necessarily call it that, though. It's a congregation. And known for being progressive and inclusive of a lot of different people and different type beliefs. So, one of the core values, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Gotcha. What about me? I'm a divorced father. My offspring is trans. I work part time in a fancy restaurant and I do clown gigs. And I have 1,200 friends on Facebook. About 13 of them are trans or non binary, or roughly about 1%. And about 5% are LGBTQ plus people. Some of my trans friends I've known for decades, since before they transitioned. In one case, I have a friend of over 40 years who still isn't out because of the toxic judgment of the culture. In zero cases do I have trans friends who are among the powerful elite, much to their chagrin, perhaps, but none of them sought or expected wealth and fame to accompany their transition. You are in a group called Transvestigation Disclosure Now, with about 1,400 other members, and the purpose is to expose the satanic transgender conspiracy. As I said, the group claims the majority of the ruling class and media elite are sexually inverted and pawns of Satan. And while you admitted it sounds crazy, you say you've done hundreds of hours of research. What I noticed on the page was a consistent attempt to use physiological and anatomical observations to prove this deception. For example, the distance between the eyes, the jawline, the Adam's apple, the length of the arms, the knuckles, the hips, the gait. Uh, these are supposed to be definitive ways of determining biological sex. And there was, of course, much focus on the crotch in these pictures. So for me, I don't think that's how this works. I don't think you can do that. It's maybe a good guideline of whatever. There's forensic ideas behind that, sure. So I'm going to do a slight detour into my experience with friends and family who've shown paranoid delusions and a break from consensual reality. My ex-mother-in-law once claimed that she was dying. She thought she had been poisoned. surreptitiously and with polonium, no less. So that's the sort of assassination the KGB would do. And she wasn't in a capacity where she would be attracting the attention of the KGB. But she also refused to see a doctor, and we flew across the country to go see her. And she avoided and changed the subject, and when pressed, brought up the end times. And eventually, we called the police for a welfare checkup, and it was a whole thing. And that relationship effectively ended. It was a very distressing major break from the consensual reality. Also, my old college roommate and my best man began talking about weird coincidences he felt indicated secret messages. So he had a lot of guilt and shame about some of his past behavior, and he would overhear strangers saying things that would set him off. For example, he wrote a song with the word water in the title. And he worked in food service. And so, pretty frequently, people would ask for water. And he thought they knew about the song and were trying to indicate something to him. And I tried to tell him that it barely counts as a coincidence. Now, if he had written a song about polonium and someone mentioned that, it would have been a lot more suspect. But that relationship ended. I've recently asked people about their favorite conspiracy theories, and most of them have suspicions about secrets hidden by the rich and powerful. It is healthy to question authority, and it's important to expose corruption and malevolence by the elite. This is one thing many of these have in common. Um, the most true and obvious conspiracy here has been white cis het patriarchy. Rich white men, they have been in charge and intend to stay in charge. And some may be practicing Satanists, but mainly it's been Christianity sanctioning conquest and control. Now, I don't believe in a literal Satan or the Bible as the word of God, and that's undoubtedly a core difference in our philosophies, as it may be with some of my other viewers and listeners, right? But I don't think Satan is required for evil to prosper. It's easy to see the concept of selling your soul metaphorically. One trades one's compassion or ethics or some material or emotional advantage. People can simply be mean and greedy assholes and thrive by putting themselves before others. There's nothing supernatural about it. So if you have magical thinking, if you believe, literal God, literal Satan at war, good and evil, it's going to be hard to get to the next step here. Where I want to talk about where, I guess. You live in Olympia, and you used to think it was cool that half the town was trans and queer people, but you changed your mind. And now you're looking at celebrities and leaders around the world and accusing them of being trans and Satanists. Okay. And this has come to my attention at Olympia. It recently has celebrating Pride. They have a trans flag crosswalk, and it's drawing some negative attention already. Okay, what about when? You joined the group just prior to the pandemic quarantine, and many people also took up new hobbies and invested hundreds of hours of research into them. And now it's almost summer of 2023, and the pandemic has been declared over. Maybe time to take a new hobby, something. Let's be in the now. How? Okay, how? I wonder how this started to become your obsession and your moral mission in life. You said some telling remarks about how childhood celebrity crushes that turned out to be the opposite sex, that might make us all gay. Now, I don't think that's how that works either. I think you have some confusion in yourself and you're putting it out there, and that's natural. Okay, understand. Now, I know for most people, transition is a long, intensive, expensive, and painful process. It requires the coordination of medical professionals. It leaves a paper trail of receipts. And in your story, children are inverted as part of their satanic religion, and I presume fake documents and elaborate hoaxes are generated. I'm confused about the role of genuine and out transgender people in the satanic conspiracy. Like, were they recruited by Satan later in life? I wonder if you believe Satan accomplished some or most of the sexual inversions using his magic powers rather than the standard tools of hormone replacement therapy and surgery. I wonder how powerful you think Satan is. Because apparently you think his workmanship is pretty sloppy and you think yourself pretty clever to be able to see through his flimsy charade. On the other hand, you realize he's been working on this a lot longer and in a lot more places. And then all he's accomplished is making people confused and mad. Of course, if anything other than heterosexuality is a sin and he feeds on the souls of the damned, I suppose business is booming. The entertainment business is certainly booming, and the trans actors playing trans characters in some great TV shows recently. It's a relatively new thing. These roles depict a more mature, nuanced, and complex view of the trans experience. The majority of trans people in the media I saw growing up were not sympathetic characters. They were punchlines and villains. They were played by cis actors. Here's a list of recent shows with trans actors playing trans characters that I've really enjoyed. I'm going to put that in the description too. People can watch these shows. Star Trek Discovery, Supergirl, Pose, Orange is the New Black, The Umbrella Academy, Euphoria, Our Flag Means Death, and The Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Maybe that last one doesn't really dissuade you from thinking that there is a satanic influence in Hollywood. Rampant Satanism. Okay. But here's the thing. It's fiction. It's make believe. It's pretend. It's play acting. Actors of every gender and orientation are shape shifters by trade, but not like literal demonic chameleons. I mean, we willingly suspend disbelief in order to enjoy and learn from stories. Actors can and do lead full lives, different from their famous roles and personas. We can and have certainly become disillusioned when our role models are deeply flawed humans. It can feel like an intimate betrayal. It can feel like Bizarro World or Opposite Day. However, enough of the scandals and revelations involve cis-bodied people committing heterosexual acts that we're well acquainted with the heteronormative, if extremely deviant nature of Hollywood and Washington. Now, if you want to unravel a conspiracy, please focus on how Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. There's a high level, rich and famous power elite group of cis bodied people who have left paper trails and DNA evidence all over sex scandals, and it would actually be helpful to crowdsource justice for the victims and survivors. But then I looked at the page and I saw the picture of Prince Andrew with the 17-year-old, and a group member wants to insinuate that she was trans. And so there's always this internal logic about this. There's another explanation for that. Okay, regarding your scientific technique of transvestigation, I know that as a massage practitioner and yoga instructor, you've had classes in anatomy and physiology. I remember my ex-wife went to massage school, took anatomy and physiology. Later, grad school for occupational therapy. Again, classes in A&P. I get you both have an understanding of the body, its forms, its functions, its pathologies, and therapeutic modalities for maintaining its wellness. What you don't have is X-ray eyes. I think the only way to be sure of a person's sex is an invasive procedure like a physical exam or an MRI. But there's no way your group would accept a doctor's note or a printout, is there? And unfortunately, some won't be satisfied until they've assaulted someone and checked for themselves. So it reminds me of the reptilian conspiracy, and I think that one of these people, if they really believe this, are going to want to scratch off the skin to see the reptile underneath. And won't they be, unfortunately, surprised when they're just people? They're just people. In an age of digital manipulation and deep fakes, it really doesn't help clarify things when you use a gender swap app to make a point that people aren't telling the truth. It's like, well, if you just use your imagination, can't you just tell? Like, if you should put on a beard or take off the beard, can't you? No, that's not how that works. Some tone policing here, too. So you referred to a BIPOC woman's monkey arms. Is dog whistle racism? I don't know. When there's pictures of men's crotches, you ask, where's Waldo? So now that's juvenile for I can't see his penis. Just use the literal medical names. It doesn't make you look sophisticated or state your case any better to ask, where are the jewels? Trump is definitely a man. He's the worst kind. So if you attribute feminine qualities in a man to be wrong, it's internalized misogyny. He just lost a $5 million lawsuit for shit his cis male penis made him do and say. Jennifer Aniston is definitely a woman. Definitely seen those pictures. It only takes an intrepid patient paparazzi with a sufficiently large lens to stalk people sunbathing in the nude or to hack into their phones and expose their private pics. We're not actually entitled to that level of intimacy. There's a wave of hundreds of anti-LGBTQ plus laws being passed that do not protect souls or sports, but put people in harm's way. Transvestigation only achieves more othering. There's so much paranoia that transvestigation splinter groups have appeared because they turned on the leader of the one you're in and accused her of being trans too. So, to quote Trump for the first and last time, I hope, witch hunt. What you're doing is icky. It's wrong. It's bad. It's dangerous. Please stop. Take up a nice hobby like birding or native edible and medicinal plant identification. Use your skills of observation and deduction for a really useful and artistic end. Why? You do this to protect your child. Do you think parents encourage their children to question everything too soon? For example, their own sexual and gender identity. I do this to protect my child, who is now an adult. I do this to protect the children who are still minors and face discrimination and harassment. I do this to protect the adults who face worse. And that's all I wrote. It took me weeks. It's like 1,700 words, plus all the improv ad lib stuff here that I've been adding to it. It's of concern to me. Um, People are letting their true selves show, and you should be able to recognize who they are and whether or not you want them in your close inner circle, whether or not they're your blood family or not. Um, I don't want to be called an abomination for wearing a dress as part of play, as part of just be the clown as an adult or youth entertainer. And I don't want my kiddo to be called an abomination. So please step off, stay in your lane, mind your own business, keep out of other people's underwear, live and let live. Be safe out there. Try to be kind. I am so thankful for anyone who is watching this, anyone who has any sorts of comments. Let's have a continued conversation about this. Okay.